Well, hi there. This is CJ. I'm hosting all by myself, meaning that I hope the video ran at the right time and I hope we went live at the right time because I love being with our guests. I'm still learning all the gadgets. But we're here. And I am here with the Caregivers Bakery. Yeah, we are a community of like minded people, and our desire is to learn about caregiving to help each other through our caregiving lives, to make it easier to share knowledge. And that's what we do here. And I thank you for being part of our broadcast today, for being part of our broadcast afterwards if you are watching this on Facebook or YouTube. And what I would like you to do, please, is to be sure, please be sure that you share this show with other like minded caregivers and even caregivers of caregivers. And how about people who are cared for and what they would like caregivers to know? Give us a chat in the chat box, say hello, ask questions, and put an ampersand in front of someone's name. And that will alert them that we are here and they will check us out. Today, we have Loretta Woodward Veney, who I've not met in person. We've had many chats, we've had several Zooms, and she's a remarkable woman. She's an inspirational speaker and a trainer. She brings to her audience so much knowledge and joy. She's a writer. Her book, Being My Mom's Mom, was the first of her book that I read. And it is being her mom's mom that thrust Loretta into the world of caregiving and caregiving for dementia patients. And I'm not going to do too much introductory work here. I'm going to bring Loretta on and ask her to say hi, and then we'll start throwing questions at her. Hi, Loretta.
Hello, CJ. How are you?
I am fine, thank you, and I'm even more fine because I pushed the right button to get
You
you on.
did indeed.
Yay!
I'm just impressed with you.
Oh wow, it's amazing. So, can I go right to being your mom's mom?
Yes.
How, why, when?
That's a great question. So how? So my mom started like everybody else that gets this disease, started doing, the little things at first, forgetting the keys and forgetting to go downstairs and forgetting to do things, forgot her wash in the laundry room, things like that. And those little things all end up to being big things. So you know it's coming. You know what it
Mhm.
is. You just don't want to hear it. But we heard it in 2006. We went to the neurologist. She had been a few times without me, and I didn't like what she was saying. So I went on like the third visit. And that's when he says, you're in the beginning stages of dementia. And right then, I think it was almost like the light bulb thing almost going
Mhm.
off that at some point you're going to do this role reversal thing. And so that's and that title had been somewhere fairly early on. But what really happened, the funniest part about this, if there's anything funny about this disease,
Funny?
one of the funniest things about this disease, it's my mother came up with the title herself. We were in McDonald's, and
Oh,
sometimes dementia is funny, but it's odd too. I don't think my mother had ever been to McDonald's before dementia, ever. So we're in this, line, and one of the things, I think all children want to do is at least let their parent be as independent as possible for as long as possible. So I'm letting her order. So she gets to the cashier and she says, "I'd like an apple pie, please." And the cashier looks at me as if for permission. So I say,
yeah.
"Well," and doesn't this take you back? So I say, "Well, you can have an apple pie, but you have to eat all your lunch first." And my mother looks exasperated. The cashier bursts out laughing, and my mother looks right at her and says, I used to be her mom, and now she's mine. And that was it. That's the
Love
title
it.
of the book.
I
Mhm.
love it.
So,
I love
yes, that was 15 years ago this month. I even looked it up. We went to that, I went to that appointment with her on May 6th of 2006.
wow.
Hmm.
And yet, you said that you saw, I forget my keys. I leave
Yeah,
my wash in the
yeah,
machine
yep,
mostly so Joe will take it out and put it in the dryer.
yes,
Um, when I greeted you this morning before the show started, I said, okay, I lost my earring again.
yep,
It's the
yep,
same earring that I lose all the
all
time.
the time. Yeah.
But you knew that this was the beginnings of dementia. Is that something that runs in your family?
It is not. It is not. And I think you ignore the stuff at first. I mean, everybody leaves their keys and things like that, but it wasn't the same thing all the time. So different things started to crop up, and after a while, and the chapter in the book is exactly titled "It was the little things at first," and then those little things always end up to one big thing. And when she forgot the laundry, it was to the point where she accused someone else of taking it. So, yeah. So then when it starts to involve other people,
Yeah.
then you go. And thankfully in my career, I'm a security person. So I've done a lot of investigations in my career. And at the time I was doing pretty much all investigations. And so she got really upset with me. She said, you don't believe me, because she called me to say somebody has stolen her laundry. And it just didn't sound right to me. She had been in that building
No.
for a zillion years. Who would want your laundry? And so I go over, and she's hysterical. Hey, took my laundry. And she wants to go downstairs to the, management and complain right away. I don't want to do that, because, I think we should look forward and other things. So let's put a sign up and they'll bring it back, or, trying to do all this thing. And so she gets this, you don't believe me. And so it just kind of sort of like that. So once, of course, the end of the story it was, in her closet, of course. She had folded it all and had forgotten.
Wow.
So, and then she actually has the audacity to say, after we find it, she says, good thing you didn't go downstairs and accuse anybody. I'm like, you were the one that wanted to do that.
And I was going to ask you, what was the result of the
No,
not
I
telling
never would have
security?
done it the way she wanted to do it, because, she wanted to go down there and fuss and accuse people. And no, and her thought process was, the woman who was in the laundry room at the same time as her and used another washer, of course, she said the woman didn't like her. Everybody liked my mother. So yeah, it just wasn't adding up for me. So it wasn't that I didn't believe her, even though that's what she accused me of. I reminded her, as an investigator, you have to go for the facts, and I'm gathering the facts, and then we'll go talk to management after I examine the facts.
Which is what you do. You're a woman who examines the facts, and
Hmm.
and you learn and you study.
Hmm.
And actually, there are two other books, folks, that I got give us the name of the two other books. Oh, the coloring book entitled "Colors Flowing
Hmm.
from My Mind."
Also from her. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things that, one of the lessons I learned early on with this disease is, you have to prepare for everything, be ready for anything. And the reason that coloring book came about was because I had gotten her several. She loved to color. So I got her several of the adult coloring books. But by year 6 or so, she started to not be able to stay in the lines with the crayon or the colored pencil or whatever. She got really frustrated. She broke her pencil once. She threw it on the floor. And so I knew we needed something bigger for her to color in. So I just used Microsoft Word, and you can use shapes in Microsoft Word. So I just put all these shapes on the page, and they became, our little drawing. And I made 50 some of them, and we laid it all on the table, and she picked her favorite 30, and that became the coloring book. Sometimes you have to make your own solutions.
Yeah.
And
Well,
she loved it. And so there might just be, two circles and a triangle on one, or a diamond shape. She loved it. I sort of copied and pasted them all over the page, and she absolutely loved it. And it's done really well. I called it an intergenerational coloring book because simultaneously my granddaughter hadn't learned to stay within the lines yet. So both of them were very happy with the color.
I love it. I love it. And then
So,
you have, and here's what we're going to follow through even more,
mhm,
um, refreshment
yeah.
for the caregiver's spirit.
Yes, that is a
That's
collection
that's
of
something that
photos.
we well, that's what we hope to do here at the Caregivers Bakery. Um,
Yes.
I mean, if you're not talking about a bottle of wine, what is a refreshment for a caregiver's spirit?
Exactly. For refreshment for the caregiver spirit, it is a collection of this is the second edition, so there are about 160 photos in the book. Beautiful scenes from around the world that my husband and I took, and I added what I hope was an inspirational saying for each of the photos.
Mm.
And my mother loved it, too. And all the titles are so connected to her because refreshment is my mother's favorite word. No matter where we went, my mother would always say, "Where are the refreshments?" I was like, I can't take you anywhere. And so I wanted to honor her with that title, but I also want to, you see a lot of commercials that say refresh, and we do. When you get up in the morning, you have no idea as a caregiver what's coming at you. So you want to be refreshed and refreshment, all of that. And it's our spirit we're trying to lift for sure. And so I, hoped that the pictures would really be, inspirational. And the cover of the book is Naples, Italy, and who wouldn't be refreshed by that? And so
You,
it's cool because
oh,
it's
you
a
have a good. Thank
gorgeous
you. Oh,
scene, and it's gorgeous. And and there was a funny story with that too. We had hiked all that way, down, and I talked my husband into coming all the way down to where you could really see all the beauty, and I think caregivers need all of the beauty. And so I talked him into doing that. But after he gets all the way down there, he realizes we have to go like 400
get all
steps.
of
So
that.
he's not happy with me. So he says, "This better be the cover of your next book." And he did not live
Oh,
to see it, but that's how it is.
oh,
So when I tell that story as part of my caregiver presentations, everybody cheers when the cover
oh
his
yeah,
picture did
oh
make the
yeah,
cover. But I
oh
think
yeah.
what people like, inside is just some of the inspiration. There's a place in Arizona called Antelope Canyon, and it's one of these slot canyons, and the photos are gorgeous. And there's one place on the tour where they throw sand up in the air, and you watch the sand hit these little crevices in the canyons and fall down. And the caption I put to that, it reminded me of your emotions just kind of letting go. And I said, sometimes, you just have to let your emotions go. And the sand is just tripping. It is an amazing,
It,
photo. And
it
I have, pictures with sun and, just letting the sun, lift you up and things like that. And, you hope as people, go through that they're really inspired. And there's two seats on a balcony in Maui, and I'm so energized all the time. So people didn't believe that I actually sat on this balcony every day. And the caption to that is, take a seat to take care of you. And it's just looking out, the hotel was right on the water. And so people love, the captions that go with the book. Sometimes they just sit and stare, at a picture, and there's pictures from Switzerland and Dubai, and I mean, just amazing, scenery. And one of the pictures is very inspirational, but it makes a good point. And there's a picture of my husband took. You see these little villages in Switzerland, and all around are these monstrous mountains. And I talk about, how the caption says, the mountainous obstacles in caregiving can be overwhelming. It's beautiful to look at, but not if you're trying to climb that mountain to get services or whatever.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
say, and because there are pictures of village, these beautiful village homes, and there's like 20 of them in this picture. And I said, no, know who in your village can lift you up. So that, it gives new meaning to, so, don't let the mountainous obstacles overwhelm you, know who in your village is there for you. And you don't wait till the catastrophe happens to figure out who your village is. You want to do your village up front. So every time I speak about the importance of knowing that village and being able to call on them. And who knew we were going to need that before COVID?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really need it. Whether one people in a part of the village goes grocery shopping for everybody else, which they did in my neighborhood. Several people who are housebound, and one of the neighbors with the big SUV, he piled up everybody's order and delivered it and everything. You have to have a village, or you don't survive as a caregiver really long.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's interesting. I do have, as you know, being my mom's mom,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my introduction to you. Um, I don't have the caregiver spirit.
Well, I'm going to send
And
that. I'm going to sign it and send it right to you,
oh,
and I can
hey,
even send it
hey,
where you live.
everybody there! How lucky are my? I'm so lucky.
Yay!
Thank you. Well, because I'm working now, there is a in my town. There
Mm-hmm.
is a senior housing and caregiver unit, little village, and I've been going in and working with the women,
Yeah.
who are there for various and sundry physical
Yes.
needs, um, or whatever the need might be.
Mm-hmm.
And there is one woman who is having a hard time
Yeah.
adjusting.
Yeah.
And this is a book
It's
for her
hard.
as well. But I'm
Yeah.
going to be starting to work with the dementia unit, and I'm going to learn a lot from you. Meanwhile, though,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to lose this, and this is really the spotlight of your work,
Mm-hmm.
is the 4 lessons you've learned from being your mom's mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Share them with us, please.
So the first one is that forgiveness and patience are mandatory. And there are a lot of skills that are optional in caregiving, and these two really aren't. You really need to have some patience. And you see seminars sometimes on LinkedIn and other places where they're helping people, build their level of patience. And I talk about that in the book because, in dementia especially, they say the same thing. What's today? What's today? What's today? What's today? Or where are we going? Where are we going? And like, oh my gosh, stop saying that. And so you need patience to deal with the sundowning, behavioral issues, all those kind of things. The forgiveness piece plays 3 roles. First, it helps you to forgive whoever you're caring for all the things they did in the past. Because if you come in a caregiver with grudges, then you can't be the best caregiver you can be. So my mother had this huge family secret, and it involved why I never met my father. And basically, my father and my mother kept us separated, and I never met my father. And I looked for him my whole life. That's how I got into this field in the first place. My master's degree is in forensic science, and I looked for him my whole life. My mother watched me do that. And then when my aunt thought she was dying, she told me the secret that it was my mother who kept him from seeing us. Wow. And I was devastated, doesn't begin to describe it. But, I had to get over that because she was well beyond where she could have a conversation and answer any question. What were you thinking, or why would you do that? She did what she thought was best for us. So I had to let that go. And I speak at a lot of churches about that, because that is a hard thing to do. And that wasn't abused or anything like that, but some people who are caregiving too, and that's a hard thing. So you have to learn to forgive the person for anything done in the past. And so I say we're starting over on the first day. And then you have to forgive yourself for all the things left undone. There's only 24 hours in a day. So if you're caregiving and you didn't get a chance to empty the dishwasher today, okay, it'll be there tomorrow, right? And so you have to forget, I didn't get mom in the shower today. Okay, well, who knows that between you, except you and mom? So, we have so much guilt, and, we have to, so hard on ourselves. You're never going to be perfect at this. So that's one. We also have to forgive what I call stupid people who say really inappropriate things out in public. Why she keeps saying that over and over, just really insensitive. Or doctors. I will fire a doctor in a minute. So you have to forgive the dumb stuff people do that you don't have control over. So that's one thing. And then the patience, you learn that as you go, how not to yell and scream. Even if they're yelling and screaming, you certainly don't yell and scream back. You find other ways to deal with it, whether you count to 10, you go outside, take a break, whatever it is. And those two things really are mandatory. You don't survive long as a caregiver unless you have those. So that's lesson number 1. That's the number two. I mentioned it briefly. Prepare for everything. Be ready for anything. And the people that seem to have dealt the best with COVID and all the restrictions are people who were like, okay, I got 2 years worth of canned food in my in my basement, and a year's supply of toilet paper. They just kind of breezed through
Yeah.
the pandemic, but the rest of us were crazy. But I mean, just things that like I always say, we have to be a step ahead. So like we get all excited if we got mom a walker, yay! But you already should be thinking in your head, okay, a few months from now, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, I might need a wheelchair. Line somebody up or the same medical supply. Always be thinking steps ahead. So when I put my mom in a group home, I was like, yay, my work is done. That's what she wanted, a group home. Yeah, I'm done. And then my elder care attorney said, so the caregiver, the owner of the group home was like in her 80s. So he says, well, what happens when Miss Mamie dies? Oh, well, she's not going to die. Then what happens to mom? I'm like, oh. So
Yeah.
always be looking for that next place or that next tool or activity, whatever it is. Prepare for anything. And the reason I learned that lesson is my husband did everything for my mother, and I was not expecting him to die before my mother. And so he just died suddenly while we were on vacation, and what breaks loose. And
Mm.
so I had no backup. So the sort of tagline to that, be prepared for anything, is have a plan and a backup plan. And I didn't have a backup plan for him. So I lucked out in that my church started a support group, but that could have been ugly for me
Yeah.
in a hurry, other than, obviously losing him. So that's number two. And number three is, I think, really more of a fun, kind of survival mechanism. And that is hope and humor are healing. And so you want to find some things to have hope in, whether it's your village that we just talked about, your Zumba class that you've been doing on Zoom, whatever it is. And then you have to laugh. We laughed about the McDonald's story. There are lots of funny stories that my mom has. And the signature story in the book was when we were in the long grocery store line, and my mother kept asking what the date was. And so many people were upset. They all yelled out the date, and that was just the funniest thing ever. So you have to laugh. And of course, obviously, you recognize you're not laughing at them. You're laughing with them. And my mother had a wicked sense of humor, so she laughed at herself lots of times. And that hope and humor, you're going to need that to get through some stuff. And then the last one, which I think has been the most comforting, may not be the right word, but it has served me daily, and that is have no expectations. And why would that be? Don't want to have your hopes all up. You spent $200 on these tickets to something when we used to go to shows, and then your mother didn't remember it, or she didn't know that was her favorite and she hated it, and you spent all that money. Well, I mean, whose fault was that? It's probably not a good idea to you spent the money, and it wasn't probably
Yeah.
the greatest thing you ever done. So when the day goes great, I go yay. And when it doesn't, I'm like, oh, well, tomorrow will be better. And I just have no expectations. So many things have happened to us over these 15 years. It's one of those things like, you can't make this stuff up. Like when my mother got out of her group home and I ended up getting her back from a Facebook post. Who gets their mama back on Facebook? Who knew that was you cannot make this up. So if I had wrote that in a book or something, people would have thought, that would never happen. It did happen. And there's no way you could expect that. You want your mother back, of course, but you never think you're going to get her back on Facebook. And so that's just how I've survived it. When, like I said, your hopes, you get your hopes up a lot of times, and then, it doesn't go well, and then you sulk or you're depressed for a few days. But if you have no expectations, it makes the day easier, no matter what the situation is. So that's the fourth one.
That's yeah. That's almost like the rule for life, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Expect anything, be ready
Mm-hmm.
for everything, and have a
Yes.
backup plan.
Yeah.
Um, Loretta, you're wonderful. We're going to have to expand.
Yay.
Folks, we are going at the end of June. This will be the end of season one. We're going to go on hiatus. And I think when we come back, we're going to come back with 40-minute shows because, particularly for Loretta, I want another 20 minutes. But
But we got the
it's
four in. We did great.
It's
We
the
did that.
Caregiver's Bakery. And
Yes.
while this is not a baked good, Loretta brought us a recipe. Oh, no, I'm going to ask you first before that because I'm remembering, forgive me, folks, I'm remembering you telling me the story of the Mother's Day party.
The
There
one
was a
last week.
story of the Mother's Day party.
So if you're talking about the one last week, which we thought she wasn't going to live for, that one.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the Mother's Day story is incredible. On Wednesday, before Mother's Day, they were having a Mother's Day luncheon for all the families on Thursday, and I really thought my mother was dying. I mean, she's in hospice, so every day could be the day, but she had been doing so well. But the day before the luncheon, she was just out of it, slept all day. She was breathing funny. It was quite the thing, and so we all like, okay, well, I guess she's not going to go to the luncheon. I was so upset, and they called me the day of the luncheon and sent me this picture of her. And they had gotten them all in makeup. And, I had ordered her this nice dress, thank God for Amazon. And she looked wonderful. I'm like, is this the woman from yesterday? So she not only went to the luncheon, she was like the life of the party. And she just, they had music and she clapped.
That's great.
I'm like, hey, you just don't count her out.
Yeah, it just.
But having no expectations.
Did they serve your meat? Look at this. I don't. What do you? It's pasta, bow tie pasta with sausage.
Yes, sausage
and
yep.
a lot of garlic. I'm glad nobody's right within tasting, smelling distance of me, and cheese. Lots of cheeses. The recipe will be posted on our Facebook page. By the way, you don't have to wait for the recipe to be posted, folks.
Yes.
Join our community. Be a viable part of our community. Email me at my email is cjgolden, author cjgolden.com, and send me a hello. I'll send you the recipes. We're going to have a tasting party in 2 seconds, Loretta. Do you have yours with you? I have mine.
I do not. Okay, so your taste for both of us.
And while we're doing that, if anybody, not if, when you want to contact Loretta, there you go. LW at lorettaveney.com.
Yes.
This is remarkable. Loretta, you're remarkable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Wow.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, so cool. So short a time. By the way, next week, on the Caregivers Bakery on Thursday, May 20th, we will be featuring Adrienne Gruberg, who is the guiding light behind the Caregivers Space community.
Yes.
What a group. You know of her, and she's just wonderful. I'm trying to talk her into being a co-host and coming on from time to time. Yeah, she really is. She really is. So we will meet with her, and next Wednesday, the day before Adrienne is on, we have another sweet spot. This time with Alyssa Lewin, who we met last week, who is the guiding light behind Nancy's house, which gives respite to the caregiver.
Yes.
And joining her will be Icy Lee Baskerville and Candy Nixon. And Icy Lee and Candy are parents of children with special needs.
Oh.
They are part of Nancy's house. They have attended the retreats. I wanted to have the three of them together to tell us about being a parent of a child with special needs. It doesn't end. That doesn't end. All too often, our caregiving ends when the person passes or heals. And I also want to know a lot more about the Nancy's House retreats and how caregivers find 2 days to go to a retreat, and then they come back stronger, more refreshed, with new skills. Loretta, any parting words?
Just find some joy in every day. There is a lot of joy in caregiving. So just find some joy every day, and that makes the task a lot easier.
There really is. It's
Mhm.
and that's why that's why I sign off always saying thank you for being part of our community. We as caregivers know that caregiving is not a piece of cake,
Mhm.
so we
Yeah,
will help each other find the sweet spot.
absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I will see you next Wednesday on the sweet spot.
Bye.
Bye.